皆さん、こんにちは。香川博です。ブログとかを書いてるときね、また本も書いてますが、山楠洋二というペンネームを使ってます。よろしくお願いします。さてと、今日はですね、ニューヨークの、ジョン・ギレスピーさんに再び登場してもらいました。というのもね、彼は、前にもお話ししましたかもしれませんが、ジャパノロジストとしてもね、非常に有名な方で、ニューヨークのジャパンソサエティの、演劇部門のディレクターもしてた方なんですね。で、日本との異文化の問題とかにも非常に詳しい人です。で、彼にね、大統領選挙が終わった後のアメリカの社会、そしてこの分断をね、新しい大統領になったジョー・バイデンさんと副大統領になったカマラ・ハリスさん、この2人がどうやってね、克服していくか、さらにコロナからどうやってね、回復させていくか、こういう難問にね、どう取り組んでるのかなということについて、特にね、アジア系で、黒人系とも言われているカマラ・ハリスさんね、副大統領、彼女についてあまり日本では知られてないので、その人柄なんかについても聞いてみました。同時にね、日本人がね、そういう新しいアメリカとどう向き合っていったらいいのかなというようなことも率直に意見交換しました。ぜひね、アメリカの状況とか、それからアメリカから見た日本の状況を知る上でね、参考にしてみてください。それでは始めてみます。Hi, John さん。Oh, that's great. What it is? This is a baseball, right? And what team it is?
Oh, it's Gillespie.
Gillespie. Family team, right?
Yeah.
Well. You are catching up with Japanese baseball?
Yeah, the Japanese are going to be playing this year, and I think MLB also will play games full season.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of a particular player who you like in the United States who is Japanese?
I was hoping Sugano would join the Yankees, but he's decided to stay with the Yomiuri. Sugano, but so the Japanese guy with the Yankees is, of course, Tanaka. He's been with them now for about 10 years.
Right, almost 10 years. It's so fast.
Yeah.
He's still okay?
He's not as good as he used to be. He's now 33 or 4. I don't know his age exactly, but he's most pitchers slow down after about 31 or 2.
Yes.
Most major league teams have 5 starting pitchers. So you talk about the front end, that's 1 or 2. Tanaka is no longer 1 or 2. He's a 3 or 4.
I see.
Starting pitcher. And the Yankees' number 1 is a guy named Garrett Cole.
I have not been catching up with so long time. So, but Garrett, I haven't.
Yeah.
What kind of guy he is?
He's a certified ace. He's a legitimate ace.
He's American?
He's American, yeah.
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 My era is like a Jeter.
No, that's over.
Actually, I thought it was good news that the vaccination is available next month, but unfortunately, you can't make it. I heard the same news from the other friend.
Yeah.
Who made the reservation, but it didn't work.
Yeah, so I have an email yesterday, Sunday. It's strange to get an email on Sunday from Mount Sinai Hospital. This is where I was going to go to get my vaccination, and it's not their fault, but it's the government's fault. It's Mr. Trump's fault that there was no backup vaccine, and he had said there was a backup or a reserve amount of vaccine.
I see.
And so many states were counting on that.
I see.
But in fact, Trump told another one of his lies. No backup, there's no reserve. So they can't continue. This is for the Pfizer. This is for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine that was a joint development between Germany and the U.S. And so now I got an email yesterday saying, okay, we have your name, and we'll get the vaccine maybe within the next 48 hours. Then we'll make a schedule again and include you in the schedule. They said, so So I think the earliest I can possibly get vaccinated is sometime next month.
Oh, that's good news too.
And you have to get 2 shots.
Right. How long it will take in between?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. So I have to be there almost 1 month. That case.
Yeah. And it's very difficult. I'm already registered, but think about people who are not yet registered. They will not get shots until May or June.
Wow. When you registered?
When? What's that?
Did you register?
I registered last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, I see.
Just last Tuesday.
How you can? So you need a driver's license or something like that?
No, you just need to register online. Anybody can register.
That case, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Mm.
And but in Japan, how do you register?
Well, current administration is so slow.
Still, Suga is very slow. Yeah.
I have no idea. Do talking about the presentation skill, he's the worst.
I know. He's not good.
He's reading like this.
I know. He's
and I believe that the politician, of course, sometimes politicians' quality is not so good, like sometimes like the United States, but at least they need to know how to present themselves internationally.
Yeah.
And if we have any kind of a good comment about it, just let me know.
Well, see if you can, through your contacts, get them to invite us to do some training for Mr. Suga and his cabinet. This is a good example of the weakest aspect of Japanese diplomacy and politics. They don't present themselves well to the outside world.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, this is and most of these are really good people. I think they want to do well.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. I think they want to, but they don't know how. Or if they know how, they sometimes are restrained because there are other Japanese around them who might criticize them if they're too successful at speaking with the outside world.
Exactly. Then that is a kind of national interest, I believe.
They're absolutely correct. Absolutely.
How of course, we all know that you and I are training a lot, so we know how to do it. But do you have any particular comment, particularly if you see the Japanese, like Mr. Suga, what is the change you want him to do?
Well, I think Suga-san, I'm sure he's well prepared anytime he's going to be on with cameras, filming him and what he says. And I think he needs to be a little more just pleasant. There's 2 things he can do. One is physical. Smile a little more.
Right.
If he's just speaking for a Japanese audience, maybe that's not so necessary. But if he's going for the outside world, he needs to do that. And he needs to sound sometimes a little informal, right?
True.
And,
informal means like more casual, you mean, in other words?
More casual,
right.
A little more casual and informal, but maybe just at the beginning or something. Or, for example, Joe Biden the other day, he's not a good speech maker, but during his introduction of his most recent team, his science and technology advisors, he was introducing the four people, and he made a self-deprecating joke, about himself, and he started to chuckle and laugh out loud right in the middle of his speech. This was very effective for an American audience.
And also, I'm always recognizing that American good presenter use a lot of number as an example.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And he didn't go into real detail with numbers, but he because this was merely an introduction of the people he had chosen. And he's also raised the science advisor to a cabinet level position.
True.
It's no longer just an advisor. So as a cabinet level position, this person, the head person, must be approved by the Senate. And of course, because Trump has been so slow.
But ironically, he was a good
He
presenter.
still hasn't acknowledged that. What's that?
No. Ironically speaking, Trump was a good presenter too, to the certain kind of people.
To a certain kind of people, that's correct. But because he's kept denying that the election was over, Biden was unable to get his appointees for his cabinet positions already approved by the Senate. See, they should already have done that in December and January, so that on the 20th, he could start work immediately. So now he will start work immediately on the 20th, but he'll have no cabinet members approved, not one. And so he's going to issue maybe a half a dozen or more executive orders on the 20th of January to change things that Trump had begun to destroy,
Yeah, that's tough. And but I'm counting on Kamala Harris a lot.
Yes,
Right?
I think everybody is. I think.
Would you please tell about her, because unfortunately she's not famous enough in Japan for Japanese.
Right.
I know her very well. The reason is because I'm chasing about U.S. news. But Kamala, as a kind of a former prosecutor and the DA of the state of California, quite eloquently persuading people.
Yeah. She was Attorney General of California.
Right.
So that means she was the top lawyer for the people of California. The top lawyer.
Exactly.
In the state. And she's very, very smart, this woman. She went to college at Howard University in Washington, D.C. You know the school, right?
Yeah, it's a black community's kind of top school.
It's the top school. It's like a Harvard. So anybody who goes to law school there or simply gets a degree at Howard University, they're top people because it's very difficult to get into the school.
I see.
It's kind of like somebody going to Todai or Kyodai, So
I have a question, because Howard University, for me, it is famous for the black community, talented guys,
That's right.
To learn. Right now, it is open to everybody, right?
Anybody can go, if you're good enough to get in.
But I believe that at the time, Howard University is really good for the black people who want to be quite a special talent, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. There's half a dozen black universities.
I see.
And Howard is the top one.
Yeah, and then when she was Attorney General of States of California, she is not just doing a kind of a legal issue, but she's stepping into the lot of executive attitude. Can I say?
That's
administrative.
Right.
So I have a question, like even the Attorney General can do that. No?
Yeah, that's one reason she got the nomination by Biden, because she was of all of the other candidates who were considered to be vice president, she was only two of them, I think, had won, maybe three of them, all women, had won statewide office.
I see.
Which means they were used to being in an election and all the difficulties of that experience of being in an election. And some of them, like Susan Rice. Susan Rice had never been in an election before, even though she's very, very smart, Kagawa-san, she's probably smarter than you and I put together. Very, very smart, very bright lady. And but she had never been in an election. So my feeling was Biden would not ask her to be vice president.
I see.
And I think he made a very wise choice, because if you've been in an election, you know what it is for people to say bad things about you.
Of course.
Not just good things. And so you have that experience already.
And also some kind of scandals,
or some kind of scandal or something.
Right.
Susan Rice, she was also, she may be very smart, but she also has a very short temper. She easily gets angry.
I see.
Yeah, this is not good in politics.
Well, Kamala's case is different. She's even smiling. And
That's right.
And also
That's right.
gentle. when
That's
she talked to, even if she's using a quite harsh voice and questions.
That's
you know?
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. She's very clever, and I like it that she's still in her 40s. She's in her late 40s, or maybe is she 50?
You
Oh, sorry,
knew
she's
her.
over 50.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
she's over 50 now. But I like it that she's 20. She's 20 some odd years younger than Joe Biden.
Right.
This is a very good thing,
But
because
talking
Biden,
back-
when you're 78 years old, like Biden will be 78 this year, you could die anytime. You know, you have no promise. There's no guarantee.
That is another question, because going back to the Biden's administrations, of course, Biden has to do a lot of things which, how can I say? I mean, Mr. Trump made a mess, right?
Yeah.
Trump made a lot of mess, and he has to fix one by one. And of course, for the first time, it's a really dangerous job. Also, a lot of crazy people just chasing. Even they came into the capitals. These people. I mean,
yeah.
And of course, Kamala too, and also Biden too. How to integrate and unite the United States again,
That's right.
as a democratic country. That's just it seems like a quite tough job.
It's a big challenge, and Kagawa-san, some things are relatively easy to change. For example, Biden can do that on the 20th with his executive orders. He can say something like, we're rescinding this, what should we say, the permission that Trump gave to people to carry gun openly, something like that. He can make that change. What's difficult is changes to our environment. And Trump has made many, many more thousands of acres open to exploration for oil and for building and so on. This is something that can't be recovered sometimes ever, or maybe it will take 20 or 50 years, or maybe 100 years to recover. And I don't want Biden to do, even Japan. One of the things Japan did that I'm very disappointed in Japan about is that Japan has destroyed almost all of its natural forests. You have Zushi still there, and some places in Hokkaido you still have, but most of the rest of Japanese forests, there's something still there, but not much.
Do you know why? Because these days I'm quite skeptical about talking about clean energy sometimes. The reason is simple. Because they are making a lot of solar panel all over in Japan. And somebody is making a profit based on the dirty political things, But
of course,
solar panel looks fine because of clean energy. But actually, what happens is it is destroying the forest and making kind of a dirty place for the only solar panel. And it happened after the kind of Fukushima problems.
You're right.
And when I went to the Las Vegas just 3 years ago, I just drove into the desert, found that a huge solar panel place in one particular place. But in Japan, unfortunately, I can see everywhere. And people can get money from that. But clean energy sometimes used as a politics quite destructive.
It is.
You say natural forest, it is true.
It's very sad, but you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And but one of the difficult challenges that Biden has is to help our political situation, which is the worst in maybe American history right now. I don't know, but it's very bad. Okay, we know it's very bad, and the worst aspect of this bad politics is that there are millions of people in America who believe that the election was stolen from Trump.
It is strange.
And what's interesting about that is there's no evidence that this happened. None.
So I sent an email to you like drinking the Kool-Aid.
That's right. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. And how Biden can meet that challenge is maybe his biggest one. I don't know that it can be met because some people can't be convinced no matter what you do.
But Johnson, would you please explain to me that the people who stormed into the Capitol and they arrested, then found out many people are just ordinary people.
That's right.
Right? I mean, they are not desperately poor or not educated. Some
That's
kind
right.
of people like, former, military officer or former
Yeah.
professional, how can I say, athlete, or
Yeah.
even ordinary business person
Yeah.
stormed into with the
Yeah.
crazy people. I don't know why.
I'm speechless. I don't know why either. Because it's so openly obvious that this election was not stolen. Many people who are in these election committees in each state are Republicans. They, by mandate, they have to be balanced, Republican and Democrat. And so many of the people were actually appointed by, or were judges who had been appointed by Trump. And so we have a huge Republican influence in our elections, which there should be. It should be roughly 50-50, all right? And every single state reported that this was the cleanest election in the history.
Well, even in the past, there are more like a skeptical kind of an election happened, like Al Gore times,
For example.
Right? For example.
It's a good example.
Yeah. So it is really strange. But point is like this, like in case of Georgia, 2 senators, Democrats, this is really good result. But at that time in the campaign, Donald Trump came into that kind of people among the people and start really, how can I say, stimulating people to let's go to the Washington, D.C., something like this.
Yeah.
And I thought it is a crime.
It is. In America in 1940, there was the Smith Act. Act.
Go ahead.
You can look this up if you want by Google. And that made it a federal crime to actively promote the overthrow of the American government.
I see.
Which is exactly what this group was trying to do. And since that time, we have in the U.S. Code, they said the U.S. Code, right? This is how, these are the rules by which our democracy operates.
Sure.
In the U.S. Code, there are at least one more point, maybe more than one, that verifies the Smith Act of 1940.
Right.
That free speech, we say free speech, but freedom of speech is never absolute. And you may have heard the example of this, that if you're in a crowded movie house watching a movie and every seat is taken, you cannot yell fire.
Oh yeah, of course you cannot.
You cannot do that. That's a crime. And especially if there's no fire. But
right.
But this is the analogy. So you cannot say the vote is illegal if in fact it was. And so if you, many reporters have questioned some of the people who showed up in Washington, D.C. on the 6th of January. And many of them said, well, we're doing what President Trump asked us to do.
Yeah, exactly. And not
so people who say that Trump did not, some people are stupid enough to say that Trump did nothing to cause this. Well, he did everything to cause it.
Right, exactly.
And he didn't say, I want you to go in and break open doors and glass. He didn't say that, but he said, we'll never lose. I'm going to be there with you. Let's go, Do
you think because, they have a kind of a memory of so-called Declaration of the Independence saying like we can overthrow the government, it is said inside the Declaration of the Independence. But of course, it's a kind of ironical excuse, of course.
Yeah. I don't know what they thought, but I like it that the FBI and the Capitol Police have already arrested about 75 people who were very happy to be photographed. One sitting at Nancy Pelosi's desk, some guy with antlers, big horns, and they were happy to be photographed. So we know who they are, and they're all going to be fined or imprisoned for this crime. It's a crime what happened.
Yeah,
and the biggest criminal is Mr. Trump.
Yeah, and Trump was impeached, and then he will be in a trial of the upper house. However,
Yeah.
his term is over, so constitutionally he can
Yeah.
be convicted or not.
Yes, he can be. There's a question about that, whether you have to have 2/3 of the senators vote to convict him, which means 67 senators.
Right. But I believe that a lot of Republicans, even they are leaning to the kind of against of Trump these days because they.
Yeah, they are, but the ones we know are like 10. And so if you can't get 17, you won't be able to convict him. But those senators who vote not to convict, they're just as guilty as Mr. Trump. And what they would do if they don't convict him is to put a stamp on and say, okay, you can run for president again in 2024.
Well, technically
difficult. For me, the main reason to have the impeachment is to also prevent Trump from running, because if he's convicted, then the Senate can vote by simple majority, 51 votes, that he can never again run for public office. And that's the outcome I would look for.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think like he will try again for the presidency?
Who knows? I can't predict anything that Trump would do, but if we look at his track record, I would say, well, yeah, of course he would want to run again because he thinks he's got a base of voters.
Oh, well, before that,
go ahead. Listen to this. We had more people vote in the election on November the 3rd of last year. More people voted than ever before in any vote in American history.
True.
And 74 million of them voted for Mr. Trump. How I cannot imagine what they're thinking.
Well, I believe that many of them are regretting after that because they saw the.
But hadn't they learned already? I mean,
maybe they learned. I don't know.
I knew when I moved to New York in the 80s that Trump was a con man. How anybody could trust him to do anything? I don't understand.
Well, I remember that, he was the owner of the hotels in Atlantic City, and he faced several bankruptcy.
Yeah, he's gone bankrupt 6 times.
Right?
6
I
times.
remember that.
Why? One of my cousins voted for him. One of my cousins in Indiana voted for Trump. And I said, why did you vote for him? He said, well, because he's a successful businessman. I said, where did you get that information? He's been as unsuccessful as anybody. He's a con man.
Right.
And so one of the things that people have done who've done research about Trump's business, they found out that in every construction case he was involved with, everyone, 100%, ended up in lawsuits.
Wow.
And because Trump has money, because people give him money to put his name on buildings and so on, he can stall. He stalls and stalls and stalls. They keep giving postponements. And most of the people who are causing the lawsuits, the plaintiffs, they cause the lawsuit. They press a lawsuit against Trump, are people who are small construction companies or a small supplier to a construction company. They don't have enough money to continue to push the lawsuit, so they give up.
I see.
And so Trump can say, well, I won all my lawsuits. Yeah, right. He didn't win anything. He's dishonest and he lies all the time.
But
and this
how come he can raise such a money? That is another question.
Because people think his name is magic and that can help them make, if they have a Trump hotel, they can make money with it. I don't know. I would never stay at a Trump hotel myself.
Yeah, Washington D.C. Just as a sightseeing purpose, I went into the kind of gorgeous Trump hotel. But I mean, it's ironically a lot of ethnic people are working for, and it's quite irony, because he's banning a lot of immigrants, right? And these immigrants are working for, and so this is just strange.
Good point, Kagawa-san. Good point. Very good point. He's anti-American in my view. He's anti-democratic. You heard what he said to Xi Jinping once, right? He told Xi Jinping, he said, you're like a king in your country. And Xi Jinping said, And this is not a story. This was reported in the press.
Okay, okay.
And Xi Jinping said, "Oh no, I'm not a king.
Mhm.
I'm just the president, and I have, I don't have power and everything."
Uh-huh.
And Trump said, "No, you do have power. You're like a king."
Uh-huh.
And he didn't say it, but you could tell from Trump's tone of voice that he says, "I wish I were like you." In other words, I wish I were a king.
I got it.
This is why his best buddies are people like Xi Jinping and Putin, because they're like kings.
Well, that is a danger of the democracy of the United States at that time, particularly up to now.
Yeah.
But even from now too, because people can be manipulated and Weimar constitutions in Germany, after World War I, the one of the most democratic constitution that was twisted by Hitler.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely the case. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Johnson. But do you have any, how can I say, idea like when you can come to Tokyo?
Well, once I get a vaccine.
Yeah.
In my arm,
so it's gonna be in February, I hope.
Yeah, I think just looking at this year, I think October might be the earliest time I could go. But as soon as I can go, I will make arrangements to go.
Yeah,
and
then I believe that we can do the session together, and also.
Yeah. Well, let's just say let's plan on something tentatively October, November timeframe.
Yeah, let's do so.